let me also thank you for what, by all accounts, was a successfully executed first-time effort at early voting in the state. I want to dig just briefly into why the turnout, the early voting turnout numbers varied pretty dramatically by county. I think it's varies from under 1% in many counties to over 7% in Columbia County. Kudos to them. But I'm curious whether there was any evaluation of what was done differently in each of these locations that led to such a disparity in why some had a very high turnout of early voting and some much lower.
Well, I mean, what drives turnout in large measure, as my experience in dealing with turnout is, it's often the contests that are on the ballot. There's a motivated race that's driving voters there for whatever reason that is. I'm not sure what contests were in Columbia County that would have motivated many people to turn out for that. But there were, pockets of, state, countywide contested races. That tends to what drives turnout. The voters are motivated to come out for or against a particular contest.
Yeah, and that's certainly true. I just wonder if there's any evaluation taking place. That was only a few weeks ago, so if it's still ongoing, I appreciate that.
It's certainly still ongoing. That's one of the things we want to look at is why did you have those numbers?
Right.
And we want to do that in groups around the state with the counties to ask them, what did you have a program? We have their basic communication plan, so we want to understand, well, did you do special voter outreach? I mean, the media covered this statewide from end to end. There was not a story leading up to early voting. Every day there was a story somewhere in the state talking to local election officials about early voting.
Was there, what I'm really trying to get at was, in addition to the disparity of turnout, there was a great disparity in the number of sites per capita, because each of the counties were making their own determinations on that. I see one on your list had 61 early voting sites. Which county was that, by the way?
Well, those are the city.
That's impressive.
But that was the aggregate number. I think when we do the counts, and I think the next largest would be Erie County.
The city was the largest, but we counted all 5 boroughs.
But the other disparity is...
I'm looking at page 4. It says one county maintains 61 early voting sites.
Well,
that's New York City.
We lumped them
I see.
together.
Okay, got it.
But also hours. If you look at the minimum number of hours, more than half of the counties had more than the minimum number of hours for early voting. So some might not have been able to accommodate more sites, but they tried to provide more hours. But I think when we look at it, it will probably be more locations, and I think it's just your typical issue of location.
Yeah.
If you're able to put early voting locations where people tend to go, I think you will have a better turnout. If they are at a location where people don't tend to travel,
Right.
I think you'll have a less drive. Plus, it really wasn't exciting in the 4-year cycle
Right.
turnout.
But and this is my point, I think you just touched on it, is I would suspect there's a correlation between number of sites per capita and turnout, because I encountered a number of people who said to me, well, I would go vote, but I have to travel half an hour to get to the site. I could wait till Tuesday and go across the street and vote my normal site. And by the way, the city board was very responsive, so when they get up here, I'll compliment them for actually increasing the number of sites from their first draft. So I do appreciate that, but I just think if we can, us as a legislature, have to consider either raising the floor that we've set and providing funding to go with it, because I do suspect that the number of sites per capita is a very direct correlation to the turnout, and if there's some analysis at the state level of what happened across the state and was that the case, that would be very helpful.
The state board thought that was an important item to incentivize. That's why in both grant programs, when we were required to come up with a plan, we incentivized a rate on the number of sites they were able to open, knowing they would need a certain amount of tools, equipment, staff to open a site. Whether you're an urban location or a rural location where it takes an hour and a half to get from one part of the county to the other, we thought it was important to incentivize the decisions that counties had to make with the grant money that you made available. So we're waiting to get the results of the county feedback. We hope to have a supplemental report to what we're able to give you today. Later in December, once those panels, I think our last panel is on December 18th. So we're hoping to be able to get you money. How much did the counties really spend? And we asked them, was that helpful to you to locate that second location? But Columbus, not every county votes the average anyway.
Right.
Columbia County tends to vote 11% higher in this cycle than the average anyway. But certainly the Ulsters, the Eries, we did notice where there were more, there was an increased
I
percentage.
appreciate that. And can the report you're providing in December include this analysis of number of sites relative to turnout? That would be
We will factor that into what we're looking at.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.